Today we're going to be solving equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign. So I need you to go to your table of contents and enter in this new entry. This is the title of our new notes for today. And we are still in red because we are still in Unit 1. So make sure your title is in red. Okay, here is the notes page. I have my title, I have my page number, and I have the red mark to help me navigate to this later on. So solving equations with variables on both sides follows the same general steps as solving equations, multi-step equations. So let's rewrite those general steps. So the general steps are, step 1, you're going to distribute. Then step 2 is, if you can, combine like terms on either side of the equal sign. So not across the equal sign, but on the left side and then on the right side. Then step 3, that's when you start moving things across the equal sign. The first thing we're going to do is move all of our variables to one side. Doesn't matter which side, just one of them, left or right. I would say move the smaller one. Then step 4, we're going to move our constants, the things without variables, to the other side. So if you move the variables right, then you move the constants left. And then step 5, you want to undo the coefficient, either by multiply or division. Okay, so let's start with our first example. So example 1, we are going to solve negative 18 minus 6k equals 6 times 1 plus 3k. And we start with our first step. So our first step, I'll color code these, is going to be to distribute. So we're going to take this 6 and multiply it inside the parentheses. So on the left, our negative 18 minus 6k will stay. And we're going to multiply 6 in. So 6 times 1 makes us 6, and 6 times 3k makes positive 18k. Then step 2 says to combine our like terms together. So we want to get things as simple as possible. So if we look on the left, we have a negative 18 and a negative 6k. Those are not like terms, so we can't do anything with that. If we look on the right, we have a 6 and an 18k. Those are not like terms either, so I can't combine those either. So there is no step 2 here. This is as simple as it's going to get for now. So step 3 is we're going to move our variables to one side. I always suggest moving the smaller variable. That way you don't end up with negatives. So on the left, we have negative 6k, and on the right, we have 18k. So I want to move this negative 6 over to the other side. So to undo subtraction, I have to add 6k. And what we do to the left, we have to do to the right. Now look what happens. So now negative 18 will drop down, and we have negative 6k plus 6k. That actually makes 0k. But if we have 0 times something, well, that's always going to be a 0. So we don't actually need to include that. That's extra information. And then we have equals. 6 does not have a like term, so we drop the 6. And then 18 plus 6 makes 24k. Those are like terms. We can combine them up. So step 4 is now we need to move our constants to the other side. Basically, this is now a two-step equation. So k is on the right, which means I want k alone, so I have to move this 6 over here. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Negative 18 minus 6 makes negative 24 equals 6 minus 6 makes 0, so I can ignore this one. And we're going to drop our 24k. And last but not least, we have to undo the coefficient. I will do it in blue again. We're going to undo the coefficient. So how do I get rid of the 24? We're going to divide by 24. So negative 24 divided by 24 is negative 1. And then again, 24 divided by 24 is a 1. And 1 times k is still k. So there's our solution to our first example. For example 2, I want to start you off, and then I'm going to let you try the rest of it on your own. So here's example 2. We're going to solve negative 5 parentheses 1 minus 5x plus 5 times negative 8x minus 2 equals negative 4x minus 8x. Okay, so first step 1 is to distribute. So we have two distributions here. We have negative 5 to distribute, but we also have a positive 5 to distribute. So let's do the first one. Negative 5 times 1 makes negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5x is positive 10x. That's it for the first one because my parentheses tells us to stop. Now we're going to multiply 5 times negative 8x to make negative 40x. And then 5 times negative 2 to make a negative 10. And we stop there because our parenthesis tells us to stop. And then we drop down negative 4x and negative 8x. Okay. From here, we have step 2, which is to combine like terms. So on the left, combine the like terms that you can on the left, then combine the like terms you can on the right, and then move on to step number 3. So in the end, you should get the solution of x equals negative 5. Try out the rest of example 2 and see if you can end up with x equals negative 5. We are going to move on to example 3. We have 8t minus parenthesis 7 minus 4t equals negative 9 plus 8t. Now notice what my t's look like. I curl my t's at the bottom. And the reason is because you don't want to get them confused with a plus. Okay, so find a way to make your variables of a t different than the plus sign you're used to. All right, so step 1 to solving says we need to distribute. So we have this distribution here. Now, what is actually in front of here is not just a minus. There is a number there. The number that's in front is a 1 that we don't actually write. So the 8t will drop down, and then we're going to distribute this little pretend negative 1. So negative 1 times 7 makes negative 7. Negative 1 times negative 4t is a positive 4t equals, there is no distribution on the right, so we're going to go ahead and drop down our variables. Now step 2 is to combine like terms. So I have an 8t and a 4t that I can combine. So 8 plus 4 makes 12t minus 7 equals, and on the right, I do not have a like term. So we're just going to drop down negative 9 plus 8t. Step 3 says to move our variables to one side. So I have 12t on the left and 8t on the right. 8t is the smaller variable, so we're going to move 8t over with the 12t. And we're going to do that by making it add to 0. So to cancel out a plus, we're going to subtract 8t from both sides. So 12t minus 8t makes 4t. Drop your negative 7 equals, drop your negative 9. And now 8t minus 8t is 0, so we can ignore this piece. Step 4, move your constants. So now we want to get t by itself. So that means we need to add 7 to both sides. So we end up with 4t equaling negative 2. And last but not least, we need to get rid of that 4 in the front. So we do that by dividing. Now, t is equal to negative 2/4, which simplifies or reduces to negative 1/2. Okay, let's move on to example number 4. So example 4 is going to be dealing with some fractions. So we have the equation 2b plus 9/5 minus 1/2 b equals 11/5 minus 1/2 b. Okay, now before we actually start, I want to see that there's distribution, and there isn't any distributing here already. So before we start moving things around the equal sign or trying to combine like terms, let's actually get rid of all of these crazy fractions. So we're going to multiply both sides, left and right, by the lowest common denominator, or lowest common multiple of 5 and 2, because that's what we have in the denominator, which I need to get rid of. So the lowest common denominator of 5 and 2 is a 10. So we're going to multiply the left side and the right side by 10. So let's go ahead and do that. Watch what happens. 10 times 2 makes 20b. Now 10 times 9/5. I'll do that over here on the right. 10 over 1 times 9 over 5. That's going to equal 90 over 5, which we know is 18. And there, got rid of the fraction. So now 10 times negative 1/2, well, half of 10 is negative 5b, another fraction gone. Now for the right, 10 times 11/5. Let's do that on the right-hand side. 10 over 1 times 11 over 5. That's going to make 110 divided by 5, and 110 divided by 5 is 22. Then 10 times negative 1/2, that's a negative 5b. So by multiplying by the lowest common denominator, lowest common multiple of 5 and 2, we got rid of our fractions. So the next step we have here is to combine like terms. I don't have any distributions, so we're going to combine like terms. 20b and negative 5b are like terms. So we end up with 15b plus 18, because 18 does not have a like term. And then on the right, 22 and negative 5b also do not have like terms, so we're going to drop them down. The next step is to get your variables to one side. So on the left, I have 15b, and on the right, I have negative 5b. Since negative 5 is smaller, I'm going to move that guy to the left. So we're going to add 5b to both sides, because the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to end up with 20b plus 18 equals 22. Then we need to move our constants to the other side. So b is what I want by itself, so I need to move this 18 away from it. So we end up with 20b equaling 4. And then to get rid of the 20, we need to divide it out. So you end up with b is equal to a 1/5. To simplify this by dividing both by a 4. Let's move on to the next example that you guys are going to try by yourselves. So example 6, you guys are going to try to get this one on your own. So we have negative 1/2 plus 5 over 4k equals 3 over 2k plus 3 over 2 plus 5 over 4k. The solution you should end up with for example 6 is, sorry, not an x, k is equal to negative 4/3. Should be your solution at the end. See if you can try example 6. Pause this video. And we have example 7 is our final example. So this one is different because of this big fraction on the left. X over 5 all divided by 3 is equal to 2x plus 3 minus parentheses x minus 2. So we've got a lot of things going on here. Okay, so before we mess with this giant fraction on the left, let's tackle this distribution of 1. So let's get this cleaned up first. So we're going to distribute 1 into the parentheses. So we're going to keep x over 5 all divided by 3 equals 2x plus 3. And now we're going to distribute. So negative 1 times x makes negative x. And negative 1 times negative 2 is a positive 2. Again, before we tackle this fraction, let's clean up this left-hand side over here by trying to maybe combine like terms if I have any. So I have a 2x and a minus x, which makes 1x. And then I have 3 plus 2, which makes 5. Now we're going to drop this big fraction on the left. This is a lot easier to work with than the green step before. So now, just like our previous two fraction examples, I need to undo this denominator down here by multiplying by a 3 to both the left and the right-hand sides. So 3 times x minus 5 over 3. The 3's will simplify to a 1, so all that's left is x minus 5. Now on the right, you're multiplying 3 to both the x, which will give you 3x, and 3 times 5, which makes 15. Make sure you do it to both things that are over there. If there were 3 things on the right, then you'd multiply the 3 to all of the terms on the right-hand side. Now I see that there's an x on the left, and there's a 3x on the right. I need to move the smaller variable, so I'm going to move the x over here to the right, sorry. This is a positive x, so we're going to subtract it to move it. So this x makes 0. So we have negative 5 equals 3x minus 1x makes 2x plus 15. Now I need to get x alone, so I have to move the 15 first. Negative 5 minus 15 is negative 20 equals 2x. And then I need to get rid of that 2 in the front of my x, and I do that by dividing it out. We get x equals negative 10. And that is it for solving equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign.